how to activate our writing centers for different populations, right? Our students, our school community, for the community at large, maybe for our tutors, pulling on this theme of storytelling. Who are we telling stories for? How are we writing? How are we rewriting? You never rewrite by yourself, right? You write in community, and so we're going to talk about how writing centers are part of that community. But for now, I'm going to let them introduce themselves. I'm hoping you all will tell us about your writing centers, tell us about your tutors, tell us about your program, and I'm giving you my time.
I can start off if it's okay. I'm Michael Lewis. I am the head of the Literature and Society program at Al-Quds Bard College in Palestine, and I'm also the head of the Academic Resource Center there, which is sort of our writing center. The thing I'm most proud about probably of our writing center is specifically our fellows and the versatility of their roles. While our fellows are our main tutors at the Writing Center. They also cover a lot of other tasks. They help out with the administration. They help run recruitment. They help produce a lot of the documents for our school. But mostly, and I think this is sort of a thing we've also talked about with other writing centers, that they provide a safe space for a lot of students. We don't have a student union. We don't have a student lounge. There's no place for our students to go when they have downtime. So the Writing Center kind of becomes the place where students hang out, at least when we're all online right now. But normally when we're in person, that's normally where they all go. So it's a pretty important thing in Palestine, especially right now. It's a really unique and useful part of what our fellows do, especially because they're young, so they're kind of related a little bit more to the students than some of the other faculty are. So that's that. Thank you for inviting us here.
Annie, just to fill you in, we're just introducing our writing centers, talking about what we think we do best with them. And I should also add that Michael's Writing Center fellows just ran a tutor meetup for the OSUN tutors. So not all, but a ton of tutors from all over the world came together, and his fellows made the entire workshop program. It was wonderful. Yeah, so they also do that. Jim?
Yeah, and I could I'll just second that. A couple of my tutors attended that, and they really enjoyed meeting people from other countries and getting to know a little bit about what goes on in their writing centers, and they enjoyed it tremendously. So thank you very much for doing that.
Nancy, do you want to introduce your
writing center? Yeah, I'm Nancy Bonvillain. I run the Writing Center and the entire tutoring program, actually, at Bard College at Simon's Rock, that's located in a tiny little town called Great Barrington in Massachusetts. And we have a writing center that's staffed every day but Saturday in the afternoon and at night till midnight. So, there's a lot of availability. We also, as I said, I also run the subject tutor program where we assign people to different courses, etc. But the writing part of it is, they're very available. It's an odd thing. In the fall, there's more use, more students go for the right than in the spring. I don't know. That's been that way. I've been doing this for 20 years and it's been that way all the time. I don't understand it, but whatever. I think part of it is that a lot of the people who come for help come for for papers that they have to write in a required seminar course that takes place in the fall. So I think that explains it. But yeah, it's lively. I think that I think that one of the things that students get out of getting help is just knowing that there's somebody there available and that they're peers. So it's not like the kind of, oh, it's, an older faculty member or something. It's somebody that they can really relate to, who's taken the same courses that they have, and they get a good conversation going. I think it's not primarily for editing, it's to get a good conversation going about what it means to be a writer, what kinds of things you have to think about, and that sort of stuff.
Thanks, Nancy. Does anyone want to volunteer to go next? Go for it.
Hello, everybody. My name is Stephen London. I am the Writing Center Coordinator for the American University in Bulgaria. If I was to talk about something that makes our Writing Center somewhat unique, our language of instruction is in English. However, the majority of our students, English is not their first language. It might be their third or fourth, which actually has amazing benefits because these students, they aren't boxed into our rules of grammar. So the way that they might express themselves stems from other languages. When I think of other things that might make our writing center unique or more interesting, I've been tasked with expanding the writing center. So I see it as an expansion beyond just the academic writing. And actually today we'll have an event with one of the local cafes. We're just going to have a board game storytelling evening. And then tomorrow, one of the university clubs full of musicians, they're going to put on a tiny desk concert. And we're going to coordinate some Mad Lib writing music lyrics with that. And then on Thursday, so it just happens to be the busiest week ever, but on Thursday we have a reading circle out here. So we're incorporating the written word from authors because a lot of times just simply discussing different writing helps us improve. So I think that that's a little bit about the writing center here. Just like everybody else, I'm sure I'm very proud of my tutors, and it's a great thing to see them also expand beyond the academic. So I think that's a little bit of an introduction to what we do.
Maria, we are introducing ourselves and describing our
figured,
writing
yeah,
centers.
I
And
I
hello.
figured that's where you guys were. Hi. So is it my turn to go next then?
If you want to,
Okay,
you could also call
great.
on Jim.
Okay, I can call on Jim, and Jim can call on me.
I love this game. Wait, Murray, I'm sorry. I'm so squelchy. Hi, hello, but am I name, or did you actually call me? No, I can't even
Hey,
see people.
Jim, I
I'm a
think
little
we're
squelchy.
let's let Maria go first while you reset internet.
Please
Yeah.
squelch.
Okay, hello everyone. My name is Maria Antonova. I direct the Writing and Academic Resource Center at the American University of Central Asia, based in Bisek. We have 31 peer tutors in 9 different subjects. The majority of them, I would say a third of them, are writing tutors, but we also, provide support in core subjects as well. And I would say that there are 2 things. I'm not sure whether it is something that is unique, really, because I'm sure to a certain extent we all do that. But the one thing that we place great emphasis on, one of the things that we place great emphasis on is aggressive data gathering and assessment of our services. So we know exactly how many, we know exactly how many sessions we provide. We know who came. We know people's GPAs, and we did a study on our impact on student success and so on and so forth. Because as one of my past coordinators wisely said, "You're the data that you produce." And another thing that we emphasize very heavily is that the view of tutors as not just a source of supplementary instruction or cheap labor, but really nurturing a dynamic and highly motivated tutor corps. So we place great importance on team creation through, very meticulous selection of members, team training, team building, and this nurturing of very high morale.
Can I just say something? I think, Maria, didn't you a number of years ago when we met as a group, didn't you tell us about a study that you had done of,
Yes.
Yeah, and one of the things, and every year I tell my tutors about your study, because one of the things I remember was you said that the students who received tutoring, that one of the things that they were the happiest about, maybe that's the wrong way to put it, but
Right.
was feeling of self-confidence.
Yes.
That working with,
Very much so.
Yes, and as I said, every year when I do the tutor training class that I do every, for the new tutors, I tell them that what you had done. So I just want you to know it made an impact.
Thank you very much. It's wonderful to hear this. So we never toil in as much isolation as we think we do.
Yeah, right.
Jim, do you want to try, or should we have Annie go first?
Oh, now?
We'll have Annie go first.
Hey y'all, I'm Annie. I am the CLAW director, the Center for Learning and Writing at Bisek Manhattan. And we have both writing tutors as well as other content area tutors. I'm new to the role this year, but I've loved doing the work that I do. And I think that a big win recently is a 10th grade teacher made it a requirement as part of students' essays on Macbeth to come to CLAW. And he has since followed up with me and said their writing is so much stronger. And I think that he had students add in an acknowledgement section the CLAW tutor that they worked with, which I thought was very sweet. And his point specifically was just students' essays feel so much more polished. So I've just been thinking about supporting students towards revisions, whether in 10th grade or year 1, year 2, which is the college program here. Sorry, it's loud. I'm in the library.
Thanks, Annie. All right, Jim, you want to try with your video off?
Yeah, I think that's the better idea. This is the intern's desk at the visible.
I think that might be
better. Okay. Well, first, thanks, Jen, for pulling this all together.
Okay.
Am I still?
No, you're good. It's perfect.
Okay.
Jim, you there?
I'm not going to move. The learning comment is I'll just keep talking. Tutors that we have hard. No, okay. I'm not coming through.
You're just very choppy. As Jim is figuring out his computer, I realized that I didn't say anything about my writing center. I'm in the same type of program as Annie. Our students go through 2 years of high school and then 2 years of college. And so they come out with an American high school diploma and an American college degree in 4 years. It's all free, run through a public school system. We go into the public school system, so our school is situated in an old middle school. It's okay, we love it. But I think one of the things that makes, and Annie, I'm sure you would agree with me, the Bisek Rating Center is so unique and interesting is that our tutors have to be ready to tutor both high school and college classes at once, which are the two different like writing issues, two different types of writing itself. And I'm really proud that they can do that while also finishing their college degree. Okay, so Jim has left. I hope he'll come back. But do you want to talk about your writing center? Okay, sorry, I like assumed that everyone knows, but fair enough. Pamela, let's see here.
So nice to see you all. So the Writing Center at Wits began in about 1997, and so I've been involved in creating the programs, and that's where I see, I suppose, what might be unique. So it's the Writing Center began in a place where language was used to gatekeep. We began with creative writers involved and peer learning. It was an American model using writing as thinking all the way through. And now we've moved now to being a writing program that has 4 branches. So it's the Writing Center as a resource with a library where places happen, where things can happen, events can happen and workshops, about 28 consultants. Then we have the writing program, which are writing intensive courses. There are 40 of them, 400 tutors. There are also writing rich courses. We're looking now at paths between those courses. They're supported by 400 writing fellows. And then we have writing groups now as a third arm of sustainable groups of writers and readers, self-organized. And the last arm would be the festival and community-facing work. So all of that is a way to create spaces within the university that are different from trying to get a good grade or fitting into a particular discipline. They cut across. They're hopefully a place where people can pause a bit. If it's within the course, it's within the course to learn how to be more effective within a course. So somehow it's to try to create a space in those different places where there are conversations, where people are versatile, but also where we can get more engagement and spaces that are outside normal pressures. So it's a lovely place to be because we're not handing out grades, we're floating a little bit. Anyway, so trying to create that space. And at the moment, I see it a little bit like the forest, that we're trying to create a space that has ways of connecting and that is not dependent on one person, but can grow all the way through. And actually, this festival is lovely because we're seeing very nice connections between very different people in different places. So growing those connections is what we're hoping for. And so we're delighted to have this meeting here too.
Fouad, do you want to?
Okay. Hi, you know me from the meetings before. I have a plug. Wait a second. We are running low on battery. You have to sing.
No. Do you have a plug? An out, like a, yeah, okay. Okay, you can continue, guys, got it.
Hey, sorry, but I need to take off for another scheduled writing center event. Awesome seeing everybody. I'll catch you on the flip wherever you are in the world next. All right, guys.
Bye, thank you.
Bye, good to see you again. So yeah, my name is Fouad. I'm working at the Writing Center as a writing consultant, writing fellow. I've been organizing writing groups, specifically during COVID. That was a very important way of for students to get some form of normality in terms of the work with postgrad students who found themselves completely floating in a space of no contact, right? And writing groups then proved to be a very good way of keeping basically community in terms of academic community during their degrees. And we met regularly, weekly. And I think we grew quite an interesting practice. It started then take hold in the writing center at Wits. And we have now how many writing groups?
More than we.
So like we have even now
Yes,
grassroots writing
yes.
groups where people just start
Self-forming.
self-forming.
We have several. I went in once to the writing center and there were 4. There was one in the seminar room and there were 3 going on here. And then we had a group of mathematicians who were studying and writing together.
Yeah. And so I think this kind of what is kind of extracurricular to offer that space to students to actually meet and just discuss everything from, everyday things, but also, I don't know, ethics clearance. Specifically, I think in the postgrad space, undergrad is obviously a bit of different need when it comes to writing groups. But I think we really managed to find that it's quite of an interesting space for that moment of, also when it's transdisciplinary, writing across the curriculum, because specifically at School of Arts, we have writing groups where there's drama for life and music and visual arts who don't usually speak to each other. And so it's a little bit like a post effect of COVID. I started with writing groups at Rhodes University before, which was run there at the Postgrad Studies Center. But I really think it has lots of potential. And I would actually be also curious to hear about your guys' practices and successes. And
yeah, I think that's a perfect moment to transition to what we were going to talk about today, which is how do we activate our writing centers and for what in the different spaces where our school and our writing centers operate, exist, touch. And I think the writing groups is a perfect way to start because you're getting specific students, you're getting school culture. Yeah, what do you do on your campuses? What has worked, what hasn't? I can talk about mine, but
Yes,
I'm hoping,
thank you.
okay. So I think the big reason, and Guy also works at Bisek Cleveland, so he can agree or disagree. But the Writing Center is really at the heart of the Bisek Cleveland community. And it's not just a tutoring space, but it's a place for students to go when they just need a place to sit or write, or they need to talk to their friends about writing, or they need like just a place to like chill out for a couple minutes that isn't loud or like really bright. And in that way, the Writing Center has produced a school culture around writing, not just as a disciplinary grade-based practice, but as something that is essential to them growing up and becoming like a scholar who can think for themselves. And in a lot of ways, I don't do that. It's the faculty who say the writing center is really important. You need to go to the writing center. As Annie mentioned, many of the faculty make their students come in and then they keep coming because they realize that it's a safe space. We have not branched out into the community outside of the walls of the school, but that's something I've been thinking about, but I haven't gotten there. Other people.
Can I just say, Jen, that actually what you said made me think that's part of what happens at Simon's Rock too. The Writing Center is located in one small room off in the library. So it's very available as a space, and people go there not just, to have help from the writing tutor who happens to be on duty then, but also to sit. There are a lot of little tables around. They sit, they do their own writing, they chat with each other about something else. I mean, it does get to be that kind of open space where people can congregate a little bit, and they do that. And then while they're there, they think, well, wait a minute, let me go get help with the writing also, so that they sort of feed each other. Yeah.
Other people, ideas. What do you all do? Even just to get, what do you do to get students to come in? Do you do workshops? How do you make sure that your school knows?
Well, in our case, right? I mean, we started from one room, one very small room with like three small tables, right? And back in, 10 years ago, right? This very few people knew that the center existed, and even fewer availed themselves of our services, right? So it was a very slow climb to awareness, right? And so we found that we really need to work with everyone, and that is, faculty. We do countless presentations to faculty, to students. We work with advising. So they send us, struggling students on probation. We work with individual faculty. We collaborate with FYS. And for example, Masters of Arts in Teaching programs, and some professors or some courses, they actually incorporate visits to our writing center in their syllabus. So, a lot of that. But I would say the one thing is that I was listening to you guys, and I was thinking how different our space is from yours. Our space is formal, right? People don't come in to hang out or to just write unless they have an appointment. Mm-hmm. But ours is very much an aspirational sort of undertaking, because students, they think of they think of students a little bit like like Superman, right? They and that is someone that they want to emulate, right? This is sort of the bridge to safety, right? So something that makes the whole experience less scary, because our students come from a completely different educational background, right? Extremely teacher-centered, very top-down, right? And also on top of that, it's the first time that they're taking any courses in English. So it's the amount of stress is, the amount of stress is unbelievable. And so, and these are people, right, that are sort of, holding their hands and they're sort of pulling them to safety. And so tutors, they have kind of a reputation as demigods, so to speak. And then that's why a lot of many students that come to us a lot in the first year then apply to become tutors the following year, or at least, in their sophomore year, or at the latest in their junior year. So that is, so that's what we do. That's kind of our role on campus, because, students are just frankly so frightened to approach to approach faculty sometimes. And they are so afraid of appearing stupid. And so parents are paying through the nose for this expensive university. They feel this great pressure to succeed. So they need this safety net.
Yeah, the open versus formal is really interesting to think about because we've had some issues with AI, for example, and I've talked with the dean just about how we could create a system where students who have been caught using AI on a piece of written work could then come to the Writing Center as a support to kind of get them introduced and to, I don't know, support. But I also think I'm really inspired by this idea of writing groups. And that was something I did a lot in grad school, just sit down, write, and that support of others in kind of a more informal way was helpful too. So I appreciate this discussion around kind of how it could be both even.
I just want to let Julia, you are on the big screen at Wits. You want to introduce yourself, tell us about your writing center. And then we're talking about how we activate our writing centers for students, for our tutors, for our school community. And I think you have really interesting ways that you do this. So I'm excited. Go for it.
Let me move real quick because I have a class in my space. 1 second. Okay, so the question is, how do we activate engagement on our campus?
Yeah,
For
but
teachers?
tell us who you are, what your campus
I will.
is, writing center's like. I love that
Okay.
you're giving a tour of your school.
Yeah, so you get a tour of my campus as I move.
Living rooms, yeah,
Changing Wi-Fi connection.
probably.
Hear me okay here? I'm in a weird spot.
There you go. Perfect.
Is it working?
Yep, we're good.
Okay. So again, I'm sorry, my name is Julia. I have 2 last names, Carrie Arundel. I live in New Orleans in Louisiana, in the American South. We're the only Bard early college in the South. We're very geographically remote from the rest of the early colleges in the Bard network. My campus here serves high school students in their 11th and 12th grade years with college coursework. So we have a little bit of a deeper need, very similar to Annie's in world. When it comes
Oh no.
Oh no.
Load shedding.
Yeah.
Is it? Or is it my computer turned off?
Course lecturers have told me that they're spending a long time on reading. So my suggestion there was to have reading groups that perhaps are connected to courses. We find ways to read together, read more deeply, that sort of thing.
And also on the Ulwazi side. So
Yes.
we have I think in the program there is a link where you can self-enroll on Ulwazi. So there's lots of resources on reading, on process writing, and where you can just like read up and find out. I think it's really good to go get readings and, because I guess you're a postgrad student, right? Yeah, so, like that's a journey where you find your own curriculum, what you're interested in, what catches your attention.
So I have a question that I think is for all of you, maybe potentially mostly Pam. So one of the things that I heard from all of the writing center directors in some form or another is a relation to a hesitancy towards writing center as grade conveyor belt, right? We don't like come in here, get a better grade, that kind of like Fordist attach itself or be attached, potentially just by faculty, to the writing process? Do we see positives there, only positives and negatives? Are we ambivalent when faculty do that? Or, and the reason that, Pam, I'm particularly interested in what you have to say, there seems to be a version of a writing center that is an independent post for student support versus a version of the writing center that is folded into all of these different pieces of the academy. And it seems, and you know, you talked about your four-legged chair, and it seems like the writing center is not necessarily folded in, though the writing program as a whole is obviously folded into those places. So I wonder about the writing center in particular being a part of the grading machinery in general, and whether or not we view that with skepticism or sort of the joy of student support.
So people don't say you have to come to the Writing Centre. We hardly ever have that, and we don't encourage that. So the Writing Centre is a resource for voluntary people to come. So in terms of being folded into courses, that would be the writing intensive courses, and then they overlap. So writing fellows will bring their students into the Writing Centre. So there's an overlap there.
Would it be against policy at your school for that to be a requirement for a submitted assignment?
For the Writing Centre work or the writing fellow work?
For a student to need to go to the Writing Centre?
I discourage it, quite honestly, because then the student is coming because somebody else has told them to come. Because I see the Writing Centre as a resource. It's a voluntary resource for the students, so it's students' agency all the time. It does happen, but it's not encouraged. Where it gets fuzzy is if you have the writing intensive courses and the writing fellows are meeting, but then they'll meet in the Writing Centre. But every single, in each instance, it's not a punishment or remedial or anything to do with grades. So the Writing Centre as a resource, the students come of their own volition. The writing intensive courses can use our space, and sometimes a consultant will also be a writing fellow. There's some people called people who are attached to writing intensive courses, but it's not that they've come to be fixed or get a grade or whatever. It's just that the spaces can intertwine.
So,
I'm not sure I've answered you properly, but keep going.
No, you have. So the tension I feel, I don't know how to answer this tension or deal with this tension.
Yeah.
But from my perspective, the tension becomes whether or not, or to what level, the Writing Centre is understood as a space befitting a pedagogical praxis, and whether or not it's an appropriate place for a pedagogical praxis. Because if it is seen as a space where students are only, where student agency is an a priori need, right? Then you are sacrificing on that altar the idea that it is a learned behavior to be tutored.
But maybe it's the two though. So the learned behavior and the pedagogy is in the writing intensive courses. The Writing Centre is the voluntary space, and I've seen them as quite distinct. They merge.
So in a writing intensive course, the expectation here is that they are being tutored in writing?
Yes, in the writing intensive course, it can be a course in anthropology, but that course has been redesigned so that writing delivers content. So they use writing to learn as well as learning to write. The lecturer, who is the author of the course, has allocated to them 2 or 3 writing fellow tutors who can do activities with the students, but they don't mark. They're not tutors, they're writing fellows. So that is a pedagogy. And that's pretty important because it's getting people to do more developmental teaching, to think about what are the critical thinking skills they want at the end, what are the writing attributes that they want at the end, and going back. So that is pedagogical. Whereas the Writing Centre is the space, is the voluntary resource. And then we have the people who will listen to work, and I suppose that's a form of pedagogy. And that's where hopefully we get the forest, because the pedagogy of the one-to-one is conversation, it's their listening. And that feeds also into the pedagogy of the writing intensive courses.
Yeah, I think, sorry, what I mean for me, a lot of times, when we're speaking student support. We talk about the pedagogies assigned to the specific skills or content areas that that student is being supported in, not the quiet curriculum of identifying when support is needed, how to get that support, and how to ensure that I am identifying that I have been supported. And sometimes it feels like an overdetermination of agency sort of does not allow us to have that quiet curriculum conversation of when do I need support? Have I been supported? Those sorts of things. So I guess
So I think it's a question of student population, right? Like an 8th grader coming into high school for the first time who has been, many of our students just like standardized test after standardized test after standardized test. And so they don't even know how to write for themselves. Like they don't even know that's a possibility. They've never experienced tutoring. They don't know like what a writing center would be. And so a freshman English teacher requiring a 9th grader to go to the writing center, I think is different, because it's literally showing them the way. Whereas I think for like an upper level like college English course, it does feel punitive because I'm sure they know they could get tutoring. You know what I mean?
Yes. I don't know how much people know, but I think context is everything. And you know, all these writing centers are in very, very different places trying to, I think we've all got similar aims, but we're having to deal with these different existing contexts.
Mm-hmm.
So here the context, well, you've heard some of it. I mean, it's an unequal country, there's been some terrible teaching, there's been some deliberately terrible teaching. I think you got that from Jackie. You know, so we're in this particular context, and how do we find spaces where we help people to begin? We don't help them to begin if it's seen as punitive.
Yes.
And we don't help them to begin if we sort of label them as needing extra help, because that feeds into all the past. So we try to create these spaces where people can grow, and they are different. The writing centre is, because that's in my mind, you know, the future, what are going to be schools and universities? I think resources is one idea of what the future is going to be, that there aren't going to be schools, but there's going to be a place where we can go to, like libraries or whatever, there can be resources. So I think the writing centre, I think, is continuing as a responsive resource. I think the writing intensive teaching is very important because it stops the coverage, it stops the, you know, just trying to teach the book, and finds ways to engage and stop and developmental. And then the other branches are important. The writing groups I think is important because of the self-sustaining business. And then we need to connect to community because Wits, South Africa, has had universities, Wits particular actually, which are siloed. And that, you know, outside there's a lot of stuff going on. It's difficult to get onto campus. How do we write community?
I mean, for me, it's also really about social epistemology. It's like, you know that in South Africa 2014, 15, 16, fees must fall, rose must fall. So these movements, and honestly, I don't want to talk about it. I want to actually have my colleagues who are from South Africa speak about it because they were so important in terms of asking for a change of curriculum. And so I think the Writing Center at Wits and at other universities in South Africa, they can provide a space for the curriculum to grow outside of, you know, the ascribed curriculum, because there can't be ever enough spaces for discourse. And that's actually what I think also in terms of when it comes to teaching and learning. Now there's a whole lot of scholarship of teaching and learning. There's a whole SOTL in the South happening in South Africa. And in the Writing Center, you are actually also then acquiring the skills to think about your learning and about your teaching. And as a scholar, you will need that eventually if you want to stay in academia. And I think it's also then a space of respect to the student. When the student says, no, I just want to, you know, like, I have an idea about my career, I want to leave academia and do X, Y, Z, that's fine. But if you want to do research, if you want to do teaching, you need to know about all the different ways. And there's now colleagues from film and TV are here. They do community film and TV productions, and it's a whole other skill set. And often, like what was Jackie Serroque telling
Yes.
about, these skill sets are often outside of the university. And I think really, we also had that in the reading group discussed during this World's Must Fall. How do you open the university to spaces of knowledge where actually sources of knowledge are also being kept out? And we had to talk today. I think it was very spot on to that topic. And I think specifically at Wits, that always held a space for people from outside to come in and to run workshops, give book launches, right? All the
Yes, I
events
think,
at the
yeah.
Writing Center were always basically also coming into Wits and not like only, the scholars talking to each other.
Thank you.
No, thank you for your questions. Are we out
Yes, we
of
are.
time?
Well done. Right, thank you.
Thank you. Are we